Hi, everybody. I'm Alix Paultre. I'm editor-at-large with Microwaves and RF, and I'm here with Lyubomir Yanchev. He's with MClimate, and Mario Schröder from Thermokon, and we're going to talk about smart buildings and the situations in smart buildings and where we're going from there. So, Lubo, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about your company and how it currently fits into the smart building ecosystem.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. At MClimate, our mission is to basically decarbonize buildings. We try to figure out ways, devices, software if needed to, just decrease the carbon footprint of the building, which, if you do that, obviously you also decrease the energy. So we do that by creating devices which are with open protocol, very well documented. And those devices are for retrofit into different things. So we have device for, let's say, if your building has radiators, we have a radiator thermostat. If it has fan coil units, then we have fan coil thermostat. If it has electric heating or floor heating, we have another device. We split the types of devices into a few categories. First is indoor climate control, where I see the most, so to say, savings potential, both in energy and CO2. Then we have basically CO2 monitoring, where we have a few sensors, which are also, some of them are without batteries, just with solar panel. And then we have automation, where we have some relays with electricity meters, really tiny, brand new. We have some sensors for open-close windows, a button, which we had to develop because of a request. And then last but not least, we also have devices for water control and sensing if there is a flood and shut-off valve to stop the flood. But that's basically it. We try to be, so to say, an enabler for our partners. We never work with a building directly. We always have like an integrator, system integrator, or some type of company in between. So we just try to enable them and, so to say, create LoRaWAN devices that are interfacing different types of appliances in the building. This is the short version.
Yeah. Now, how about you, Mario?
Yeah. Hello, welcome. So Thermokon is a German-based company. So we are doing for more than 35 years sensors. We develop sensors and manufacture everything in Germany. And our main focus is indoor air quality. So to make any building more sufficient, sustainable. And the last 35 years, we did hardwired sensors. We still do the hardwired sensors. But 3-4 years ago, we saw the trend to digitalization. We took the decision to equip all our sensor portfolio with a LoRaWAN chip. Means we have well-established measuring systems just equipped with a radio technology. So what I always describe, we are more or less a startup in the LoRaWAN world with 35 years experience. And we have room applications a lot. We are also focusing on the industrial side. And the main measurements we are doing is temperature, CO2, humidity, VOC. We also do room operating units, where you can just change temperature in a hotel room, in your living room to increase the individual well-being in every building. And our focus are commercial buildings. So commercial buildings and LoRaWAN fits, in my point of view, perfectly together because of the wide range LoRaWAN can cover. And this is a huge benefit for every facility manager, just to integrate thousands of sensors in a wide area with installing just one gateway. And so this was also a brief introduction what Thermokon does, where we come from, and what is more or less our future perspective in building management.
Very good, Mario. Now, when you think about it, and we had a similar discussion, we were talking about smart cities. A smart building could be anything from an office building to a mixed-use industrial park, as it were.
Right.
So the environmental management can go everything from just simple temperature and CO2 or something to maybe I've got something in my building that I should monitor for outgassing. Maybe if I get extra hydrogen gas in my building because I've got batteries somewhere. There are a lot of moving parts out there. We'll let you start. What are some of the challenges you see in incorporating some of these intelligent systems into these buildings? I mean, well, wireless, at least there's less wiring you have to do, right?
Yeah, right. So it's pretty easy to start to answer your question. So in reality, we have to combine two independent worlds. So we have the IoT world and we have the HVAC world, or the building automation world. And in each world, there's a lack of information of the other technology. So what I see in day-to-day business when I'm talking to IoT companies, they have a lack of information how to install sensors. So the HVAC information are missing. So appropriate installation, and from the other hand side, it's similar when we're talking to the other world. So they have no clue how to integrate a device into a platform or something like that. So these are two main obstacles to get a project running. But the other points are scalability, easy integration, battery lifetime, and the entire deployment. So this is something we have to convince all our customers that you have to integrate it. The integration process at the end of the day is easy, but you need to work with the expert in each field. So select the best company for hardware, for middleware, and for application. I'm pretty sure there's no company outside which can cover all these three fields to provide the best fit solution for your individual need. And yeah, cooperation is king. That's what I always say. And I believe in that in the LoRaWAN world.
Well, those are all very good points, Mariot. When you think about if you're going to cross-pollinate IP, get the best you can, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, Lubo, when you think about that aspect, and Mario brought it up also, like with just the deployment aspect, if you can tether all of those sensors, that'd be great, although that's the irony there. You've got to tether the sensor for power, and it's a wireless sensor, but you still have to drive the things. What are some of the challenges that you've been seeing in deployments?
Well, they really depend on the type of building the sensors or devices are installed. Honestly, we see a lot of different types of models. We see some, let's say, new age IoT companies bridging the gap between IoT and BMS, and we see some pretty successful ones. Then we see some pretty focused only on IoT, not really caring about the BMS. Which, there are pros and cons for each, and I really think it depends on the building, because if the BMS inside the building is basically controlling the boiler in the plant room, only that, then okay, I get it. Maybe you can get around it. But what Mario is talking about is like bigger buildings, with a lot of sensors already integrated into the BMS. And then LoRaWAN shines with certain qualities, but the challenge that I see is basically education of people. As you said, it's missing information. People don't know how to do things. And I think, those two words, the BMS, which is a typical word for a smart building, right? This is a pretty high level computing for a building. And the IoT world this is one of the events where we bridge the gap. Thermokon is doing an amazing job. I love the startup with 35 years of experience.
Thanks.
I think you're in a very special position because you manage to see things from both sides. You see all those enthusiastic people about LoRaWAN, people that get solutions, rolling in a matter of weeks, and then you see the BMS world, which it has a vastly different value chain. Shareholders are completely different, and to me, one of the issues. I can talk about how hard the technology is, not hard, but it's modular. You can do a lot of things, and this obviously sometimes leads to confused people. But I think the gap, so to say, incumbent market of BMS, which is relying on Modbus, BACnet, etc., which are nice protocols, they're working fine. But if we focus on why do we want to make buildings smart, the reason why we need to make buildings smart is to save energy. And if we want to do this quick, we got to figure out solutions that are quick to install, quick to get rolling. And a typical BMS deal goes for how many years? It's being planned at the beginning of a new build, building, and all of a sudden now we have some disruptors that are coming and saying, okay, you can install those, let's say, TRVs for a minute. But it's hard to not only bridge the gap technically and from knowledge in those people, but also it's hard for companies to kind of orient in the space and figure out, okay, what is the value chain in a BMS? Who is doing what? Who should I talk to if I have this revolutionary, I don't know, CO2 sensor that I want to sell? How do I do it? And as you said, there is no information from the other. I think it's two completely different worlds.
Agree, absolutely. Yeah. So we have to connect both worlds. So this is my day-to-day job, talking to IoT companies and try to share the information out of the HVAC world with them. What is needed? What are the requirements? Why are they struggling? Why is battery changing in 5 years a big topic for the facility manager? Why are the huge building management companies just focusing on solar-powered or energy harvesting-powered sensors? So on the other hand side, I have to convince the HVAC companies to trust in IoT solutions. So there's no matter where the data is stored, who owns the data, those topics. So when I have to talk to the HVAC companies to convince them to IoT solutions, I start at a scratch, really. So that's the basic questions. So at the end of the day, we have to show solutions, the benefit, and we do not need to talk about the technology. So Lubo has great products, great solutions, and so he doesn't need to talk about is it LoRaWAN, is it Wi-Fi, if it's Zigbee. So he is showing the customer how to save money. And we have to find a way for easy integration for both worlds.
Well, that's an excellent point to make, the siloing of information that exists out there, which ties into one of the other questions I wanted to ask. You brought up a little bit of it, Lubo, when you were talking about the relays and the like. We've got the two aspects of smart building, knowing and doing, right? So there are challenges in getting the knowing part put into place. What are the challenges in getting the doing part into place? Like, you're saying, Mario, how do you then add control and the ability to actually change events to that smart building system?
Yeah. So how to change the situation? That is a question, right? Yeah, we have to convince both worlds so that it's a great fit to bring IoT in HVAC and also to bring the HVAC knowledge into IoT. And when we achieve that, so it's pretty easy to make any commercial building smarter, better, more sustainable, saving more energy, reducing operating costs, and optimizing TCO. But at this point, we are facing the situation, and we need a reliable, robust solution to convince both parties.
Got it.
The connection. At the moment, the connection is missing. That's my point of view. So MClimate is well known in the IoT market. So Thermokon isn't known in the IoT market at the moment. So because what did we do the last 35 years? Wires. So, and in the wiring market, we are well known. So MClimate would like to get more attention in this market. So it's a situation where we have to learn from each other and to see the entire picture of the potential HVAC market.
Got it. Well, and there is tremendous potential, and some of those use cases aren't even going to be properly established until the core technologies that support those use cases get deployed. Like you were talking, Lubo, about how some of your systems actually do include some control aspects with the relays and the like. How's that deployment going? And from the knowing to the doing, what challenges are you facing?
Oftentimes people jump from not knowing to doing. It's a way to learn how to do it. Well, I think LoRaWAN, it's absolutely great. I think at the very beginning, from architecture point of view, they set up the right foundation. Okay, But at some point, it becomes too technically challenging for a typical BMS or system integrator to do everything. Because LoRaWAN, it's modular, but when you start doing something, you gotta answer a few questions. And those questions, if you want to answer them well, you got to do your own research. What gateway am I going to use? What LNS am I going to use? What are the devices? Do I want an application or not? Do I need? And with let's say Modbus, you attach a device, you program the address, and then the guy, the system integrator, he knows how to read registers, how to write them. He reads the documentation. Okay, it's a device. They have to know. But it's way easier than, okay, I got to set up the LNS, then I got to do an application, I got to add the devices there, I got to get the gateway, I got to configure it to the application, to the LNS. I got to make sure that the firewall is okay, because, so, that's why there is, we see a lot of system integrators, not a lot, because as you said, I don't know so much the BMS and the HVAC space. But we see more and more system integrators or companies that are using BMS, Modbus, etc., tapping into the LoRaWAN world and bridging this gap. And I think this also can be a competitive advantage for a system integrator. I think using LoRaWAN today is a huge competitive advantage because you can implement projects that you couldn't before. You couldn't quote them because if you have an already built building and you gotta control the radiators, you got to put wires and everything. That's, too hard. It's going to be non-financially viable. But with LoRaWAN, we see more and more integrators. But those integrators are still kind of lost in all the information. And we see how LoRaWAN is great and all. We have so many MAC commands. We have so many configurations. And then some things are just left unknown. And this really impacts projects at some point. We had projects at the very beginning when we were starting with LoRaWAN, where we have a company really installing a few gateways, but disabling the adaptive data rate on all of them. And they were like, oh, wow, why are the batteries running out? Oh, ADR for them is something stupid because they don't know what it is. So I think it's, again, about education. If we can figure out the way, and I think Thermokon is doing a great job with that as well, with their box where they have the LNS, they can communicate with the BMS, and just bridging this gap of, okay, you have to know how to configure this to roll out a project. And I think you're making it a little bit easier for those guys, at least translating into their own language.
Yeah, so in my point of view, the box you're mentioning, it converts a LoRaWAN signal into a Modbus or a BACnet signal. So this is the first step for our existing or traditional HVAC customers to use LoRaWAN. So they can easily integrate additional data points in an existing building and use this existing system, just adding the new data points on top of the system. So that's, making a new world, bringing into your old world. In my point of view, it should be vice versa. So we have to focus on digitalization, but this is the first step to bring those companies good experience with LoRaWAN, and that's the first step. If they are convinced about the technology, easy integration, easy installation, and reliable data, so maybe the next building will be equipped with a completely LoRaWAN solution.
Well, that's the thing, is that we know eventually people are going to adopt all this stuff. It's a cost-effective solution, it's a functional solution. But as you say, a lot of it is in finding our way there, educating everybody involved to make sure. Let's say we're doing that and your application spaces are now done, or as close to on its way to being done. When you think of smart building, what would you say would be the next big functionality that needs to be integrated into a smart building to make it smarter?
Okay. I think we have a long way to go. So why do we want to make buildings smart? Because we want to save energy. Why do we want to save energy? Because we see floods, we see natural disasters. That's the real reason, at least for me. Okay, you save energy, you can save a few bucks, that's great. But at the end of the day, buildings right now contribute to about 35% of the CO2 emitted into the atmosphere each year. So I think it's becoming quite urgent. Vienna just had a massive flood. In Bulgaria, we have floods as well. We have fires. And I think this is happening all over the world. So I don't really want to answer your question or even think about what is the next step, because I think there are hundreds of thousands of buildings that must be brought into the 2024, 25, 26, just to ensure that we live in peace, and then we can think about comfort. We can think about AI forecasting my actions in the building. Am I going to have a meeting or not, or whatever? But I think, at least in my opinion, the energy is the most crucial thing right now.
That is the baseline. If we don't have that, then the rest is wasted effort.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Mario?
So I agree on all the points that you already mentioned. So we have to reduce our CO2 level, and that's not the question. So that we have to update all the existing buildings. So, but we need to find a way how we implement it very fast in an easy way. And the question is more or less, what has the technology to do to speed up the process? Easy integration, scalability, power consumption, signal penetration. In case we're getting those questions or have good answer to those questions, so the integration from LoRaWAN technology in existing buildings would become way easier as we have it at the moment. So that's my personal point of view.
Well, actually, I agree with both of you gentlemen. But then also, I'm the kind of person who says, well, we still got to think about what the next big thing is coming, because part of that also ties into the BMS. You want to make sure that the manager recognizes that there are other functionalities that they can bring on board once they've done these functionalities. So I recognize there's a chain of educational events that have to occur. There's a chain of sales events and design events. Beyond the pure element of education and just spreading the information out, what would you say is the next the biggest challenge? Once I understand and I know, what's the biggest challenge in making it happen? Mario? So I know what I want, but...
Easy integration is a huge challenge in my point of view. And what also a huge topic is that we have to find a platform which is able to work with all the data points which are already existing in the building. So not limited to LoRaWAN, Modbus, BACnet, KNX. There are so many technologies outside and installed already. We have to combine all the data points which are existing and make the building more efficient.
Yeah, so right now, to make buildings more efficient, I see two main channels. And it depends on the type of the building. But if it's a high-rise in Frankfurt, obviously you have a pretty solid BMS there. Somebody is monitoring it, there are alarms, there are things that are happening automatically, and that's great. If you have another type of building, like a school building, a hotel, which might not have as sophisticated as BMS, then you might go to additional sensor shroud, additional actuators, etc. But then on the first one, high-rise in Frankfurt, we see companies like Brainbox AI and others. We see basically AI trying to ingest this data and try to figure out, make any sense of it. But it's, technically speaking, it's two completely different things, at least in my opinion. It's like one thing to attach an AI to all the data that is getting into the BMS, and it's another thing for this AI to give you some good, suggestions, and then you have companies that are also saying, well, just let the AI run your system, where I'm kind of hesitant. Yeah.
Well, what do you because that's one of the problems with an AI-based system. If the engineer monitoring the system doesn't know as much as the AI, it'll be harder to troubleshoot what the AI is suggesting. And if the AI has an error and you don't catch it, you could have a catastrophic result.
Catastrophic, yeah.
Well, I hate to end it on such a negative note, so why don't we each give us a little bit of positive spin on what your view of the, we're almost over, so just leave our audience with a little bit of a, how you see the future in a nice way.
Perfect. Should I start? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So, in my point of view, sustainability issues are increasing in a very rapid way, and yeah, the advantages of LoRaWAN makes it a powerful tool to bring all the buildings to the next level, to meet all the governmental requirements. So we need more data points to fulfill all the governmental requirements. And LoRaWAN is a great technology to retrofit a commercial building. So we have no shutdowns, we have a fast installation process, but we have to combine both worlds. And after we achieve that, the LoRaWAN has a huge potential for the next years.
Agree with you. I agree with you completely, Mario. How about you, Lubo?
I also agree with you. I think we have a lot of wins in our sales in terms of regulation, in terms of where things are going. Now, companies are starting to report CO2 at some point. Buildings are going to start doing it. At some point, there's going to be requirements for this, big building, how much it should use. And the EU is, first pulling out the carrot, and then it's going to pull out the stick. I think when they pull out the stick and start taxing people, everybody is going to actually start doing, everything is going to become super urgent. On a positive note, this is one thing. Second thing is that, I've been in the LoRaWAN space for a few years now. I see a huge movement, a huge change. Even the fact that you as Thermokon, we have this 35-year-old company interested in that. That's amazing. We see companies like Pepper and Fuchs also entering the space. So I think we are heading in the right direction. What I would say is that, usually people can be good at a few things. So it would be great if, here, all of us can just focus on what we're good at and then try to, just make the puzzle happen. And I think there's going to be enough work, enough jobs out there so that everybody has a seat on the table. But I think it's important that people are not trying to do 1,000 things, or if they do 1,000 things, they at least can, explain really well why they're entering this space or that space. Because it's one thing, it's one way if you do only one thing and you become super good at it. Let's say installation or sales or whatever, and then it's another thing if you just spread too thin and you're doing an okay job everywhere.
Well, that's why we have to integrate, educate, and participate, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to talk to us today at this panel. I think we really got something nice out of it. I did, at least. And I hope our audience enjoyed it as well. I want to thank you all for taking the time to participate as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.